Good afternoon. Welcome to Scott Squared, the Scott and Scott Back to School College Football Show, powered by winnersandwhiners.com. Scott, you like all the new verbs they're using for brought to you by instead of like powered and all the stuff that they do on the commercials these days?
I feel like it's definitely something that it feels like when you're trying to reach the word count when you're close to an essay, but you're not there yet. So you have to find like ways to say, let's just say a small amount of things in a large amount of time. So I feel like they're kind of going presented by, brought to you by, it's the same thing. Kind of like college football now with the 2-minute warning. But I
Right.
feel like the NFL trademarked it. So they have to say 2-minute timeout now or 2-minute stoppage. Did you notice that?
No, I have not. Is that right?
Yeah. Pay attention to any college football game, and they will not say 2-minute warning. So I think that the NFL trademarked it.
Lock that sucker up. So, hey, it's good to be here for the first semi-full week of college football. We don't have everybody in action yet, but we got a lot. We got a lot of the top 25 to talk about. So, yeah, we'll get right to it. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, doing this live with us. And full disclosure, we are without our regular producer today. So, Scott Reichel has generously offered to run the ones and twos, as the kids say. So, he'll be doing all the cool production stuff. And so, if you drop a comment and we miss it, not our fault. We got a lot going on.
You got to
So,
have some faith, man.
there you
I know
go.
what I'm doing.
There you go. And yeah, we got the farm to get to. We got 15, 18 games. I don't know what we have. We have a lot of games. We have a lot of games about in the top 25. So you know what? Let's grip it and rip it and get right to it. What do you say, buddy? You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
You all loaded up with hot takes?
Hot takes, maybe. It depends on the game. I can't spoil it in the first 2 minutes of the show.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, let's start it off with a game tonight, Scott. Tonight down there in Norman, Oklahoma, as the Temple Owls take aim at the Oklahoma Sooners, 16th ranked Oklahoma Sooners. I've got this one at 42.5, and the total, Scott, 59.5. What do you got on this one?
Yeah, so for this one, Temple's expected to be one of the worst teams in the entire country. Maybe not New Mexico bad because they were 2 touchdown underdogs at home against an FCS team. But the point is, Temple's expected to be really bad. Oklahoma, we know this year they have Arnold as their starting quarterback because Gabriel ended up leaving. But we think that Oklahoma has a history of running up the score on these teams. I think Oklahoma buries them. If I had to guess, they probably win by 50. If I had to guess, so I'm actually going to lay it if I had to pick. I think Temple's going to get destroyed, and I think Oklahoma is going to be trying to really give the crowd something to be excited for because they've had, can we say underwhelming past couple of years since Lincoln Riley left? Can we say that?
For Oklahoma standards, yeah, absolutely.
I think last year we saw them beat Arkansas State. What was it, like 73-0? They beat
73-0.
Tulsa by about 49. I see that being in the ballpark. I'll go with Oklahoma.
Yeah, this is a Temple team, man. They are bad, and their offense, Scott, it may be even worse than last year. They had one competent player, and that was their quarterback, E.J. Warner. He gone. They led the conference with 308 passing yards per game. That ain't happening. The run game, it is dreadful. Only 9 touchdowns via the ground last year, and they averaged a league worst 95.7 yards per game. They had one good player on defense, and he transferred to the NFL, Scott. They put in a 4-3 scheme. This is a defense that just doesn't stop anybody. They only had 3 interceptions last year, recovered 2 fumbles. If you're thinking that's not very many, you're right. That's the fewest turnovers forced in all of FBS. Fun fact about Temple, they have lost by at least 43 points every year since 2018, if you take out 2020. Oddly enough, Scott, also in that stretch, they've also lost 3 games by exactly 42 points. I think Oklahoma pitches a shutout here. I've got the under in this game. I'm not sure how much they run it up. I like the under a lot better. I think Oklahoma dominates this game, and it goes under the total of 59.5. All right, moving on to Saturday. We're going to take a look at the number 8 ranked Penn State Nittany Lions as they travel to one of the most difficult places to play in all of college football, Morgantown, West Virginia, to take on the gun-toting, sideline coon hat-wearing Mountaineers. Scott, is that your favorite mascot of all?
I think I'm more of a fan of the Hilltopper personally, but it's a pretty good mascot.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
I mean, it's basically the Kool-Aid Man, but for some reason he's with Western Kentucky, which I don't understand, but that's probably my favorite mascot.
That's that. You know what? I can't argue with that pick. Penn State's 8.5-point road favorites. 51.5 is your total. You know, they played this game last year. They were in Happy Valley. West Virginia got beat there, especially in the second half.
They ran up the score a little bit there, Penn State.
Yeah,
Yeah.
38-15. West Virginia had some shots. They just couldn't get the big conversions when they needed them. And it was not a happy night for West Virginia in Happy Valley. Penn State, they lit it up for 332 yards through the air. But, you know, Scott, the encouraging thing is this is a Penn State defense that led the nation in sacks, and they only recorded 3 against the Mountaineers. This is a West Virginia offensive line that returns a bunch of starters. Very possibly they have the best unit in the Big 12 with the possible exception of Utah. And they also returned nearly everybody besides Zach Frazier and Doug Nestor. They really found their groove late in the season. They were 4th in rushing yards in FBS. They've got a kind of a thunder and lightning combo there in the backfield with White and Donaldson. And finally, I like the quarterback, Scott. Garrett Green is another one of these guys that doesn't get a lot of pub. He ran for 772 last year, 3 touchdowns, and he also threw just 4 picks against 13 TDs. I know Alar is going to be good, but this is a West Virginia unit that led the Big 12 in sacks, and I think they put the pressure on him, and I think Morgantown is the wild card. I think it's the deciding factor in this one. I will happily take more than a touchdown. Give me West Virginia plus 8.5.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'll go a bit further. I think West Virginia can actually win the game. I
Absolutely.
think Penn State is definitely a team that has a lot of expectations, but we've seen Franklin expectations, let's say, not mix well over the years. But luckily for Franklin, West Virginia is not a top 10 team because Franklin is 3-17 against top 10 teams in his career. But I think that you mentioned, of course, the offensive line for West Virginia being a strength. Penn State did lose Chop Robinson, for example, so the defensive line should be good, maybe not as good as last year. Do you like the receiving core? Because they got Fleming as a transfer from Ohio State. A lot of unproven commodities at the receiver position for Penn State. I'm also not a big fan of Aller. I know that his stats were fine last year. Struggled in big games. Michigan and Ohio State killed them. So I think that you're looking at Aller maybe being a bit overrated in the spot. I do think West Virginia at home, though, Penn State ran it up on them. They could have kneeled the ball out. They, I think, threw the ball and scored a touchdown in like the last 10 seconds. And I think West Virginia kind of might remember that in the back of their minds. I'll take the points. I think West Virginia and Morgantown's always dangerous. They're good for an upset basically every year. And I think it's a good spot. So I'll actually go West Virginia plus the points. They might win the game. So maybe sprinkle on the money line.
I don't hate that one bit. Let's talk about Illinois State at Iowa. Iowa, 22.5-point favorite. And, of course, the total's got 17. No, it's 41 as Iowa goes at this one. And they're going to have to do it without their head coach, Kirk Ferentz, for the first game. Break this one down for me.
Well, they ended up getting suspended. It was him and the receiver coach, I think?
Yeah.
For recruiting. I mean, to be fair, if you try to get a decent recruit to play offense at Iowa, you probably have to cheat, to be fair. Like, it would, I don't know what the NIL deal would be or whatever. It would probably take a lot to convince you to play for that offense, wouldn't it?
Oh, my God, yes. Yeah. You're not going to get many opportunities, a lot of 3-and-outs, and nobody will be there to throw the ball to you. But other than that, it should be a great chance.
However, they can pick whichever punter they want from high school. So,
that's right.
But point is for this game, give me the under. I mean, I'm not going to overthink this. Iowa, you can make the argument maybe this year might look a little bit better offensively. I'll take my chances. Illinois State, are they a good FCS team? Not really. Like, no. I think Iowa's going to probably be close to pitching a shutout in this game. Maybe Illinois State with a turnover or maybe just some garbage time like score gets on the board. This really just screams to me like 31-3, 30-3, like a basic Iowa win. It's never in doubt. They're not going to run up the score. They're going to drain a bunch of clock. And barring a couple defensive touchdowns from Iowa, I think this game goes under. So just give me the under in this game.
You know, Illinois State might have a little something for them.
I'm saying maybe they get 7. Maybe.
They've got 6 all-conference players coming back. They brought in 8 FBS transfers, lost just 4 of their own through the portal. They've got an NFL prospect and left tackle Hunter Zambrano on their roster. So they're not the cupboard isn't bare there in where the hell is Illinois State? Any idea?
I'm assuming Illinois. Maybe in the state of Illinois. But point is,
hot
take. You wanted hot takes. I'm going to give you hot takes. But it's kind of my point. Like, they're not going to compete for an FCS title, but they're fine.
Yeah, absolutely. The problem that I see, I think they'll be able to pick up some first downs. I just doubt their ability to to continue long drives against this Iowa defense. 12 of Iowa's 14 games last year, 141. The incredible thing for me is Michigan, they put up just 26 against Iowa, and then they hung 27 on Bama and 35 on the Huskies. So it's a legit defense for sure. What's even more amazing in that game, they had the ball twice as long as Iowa and still put up just 26 points. This is not a high-flying Iowa offense. I love the under 41 in this one as well. All right, Scott, let's head to hot Atlanta as Clemson takes on UGA. University of Georgia currently ranked number 1, Clemson 14 in the preseason poll. 13.5 is your spread. 48.5 is your total. This Clemson team that has a lot of new pieces on defense, Scott. If they had a couple of warm-up games, I'd probably feel a little better about their chances. And when you think Georgia, at least in years past, you think defense. But Carson Beck may be the best player in FBS, and I think he has a decent shot to go 1-1 with a good season in next year's NFL draft. Clemson has Cade Klubnik. My goodness, that just sounds like a superstar, doesn't it? He's fine, I guess. 63% completion, 2,580 yards last year, 19 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Like I said, fine. The Dogs, this is a team that can score, Scotty. Put up 37 or better in 9 of 15 games last year. That's about where I put him in this one. I think Debo and that defense can do enough to slow him down a bit. And I think they'll be able to put up some points and get us the rest of the way there.
I'm assuming you meant Dabo, by the way.
What did I say? Dabo?
You said Debo.
Debo. Yeah, not Debo. That's his son. I think there's going to be some points scored in this game. I think the Georgia's going to put up mid-30s, and I don't think Clemson's going to be shut out. I think they put up at least 2 touchdowns, maybe add a field goal. I like the over in this one.
I think I'm just going to go with Georgia for this one. At the end of the day, Clemson, I think they're going to be fine. Maybe they'll compete for an ACC title. We saw Florida State lose a conference game already, which is a pretty good start for Clemson. But I think for the sake of this matchup, I don't think Klubnik's any good. I feel like we've watched him play for a couple of years, and I don't think he's anything special. We saw last year, Clemson really kind of turned into a run-first offense based on how little Dabo actually trusts this quarterback. And against Georgia's defense, good luck. I think Clemson, as you said before, if they had maybe a couple games under their belt and this was like a week 3, week 4 matchup, then maybe I'd make a case for it. But Georgia, we know, arguably got, I'll put quotes around, snubbed from the playoff last year. They beat Florida State by like 60 points in the bowl game. They got a decent amount of guys back, not all of them, but of course they lost like Bowers, for example, but they don't really have a running back. ETN has some issues and they had some other injuries, so we'll see what happens with the running backs, but I think Beck's definitely better than Klubnik in my opinion. I agree with you. I think Beck will be, worst case scenario, a top 4 pick in the upcoming draft.
Yep.
So there's a massive advantage of quarterback. Decent crowd there in Atlanta as well. I think Georgia wins. Maybe Clemson can hang in there for a half, but I think eventually Georgia breaks it open. Give me Georgia by like 17.
Very nice. Scott, we got the Chattanooga Moccasins taking a short drive up I-75 to Knoxville to take on the Tennessee Volunteers. Tennessee is ranked 15th in the country. Chattanooga, not ranked as of right now, just spoiler alert. 38.5 is the spread. 56.5 is the number. What do you have for this game, my friend?
Yeah, Chattanooga, are you mocking me with that outfit? No, for this one, I think I'm going to have to go with, I'm actually going to take the points here. Tennessee, historically speaking, has really not done a great job of running up the score against these FCS teams, especially over the last couple of years. But they have NC State on deck. I mentioned in the last episode that we did that NC State, I thought, was laying too many points against Western Carolina. They were an upset alert for a bit there. Point is, though, I feel like they were kind of looking at the future potential marquee matchup for week 2. And I do think that might be the case here for Tennessee. Tennessee's defense usually can give up a couple of points here, a couple big plays. I think Chattanooga's going to score maybe a touchdown or 2 in this game. But I think Tennessee will probably call off the Dogs if they're not already looking ahead to NC State in the first place. I'll take the points here. I think Tennessee's going to win, probably comfortably. Do I think they care about winning by 40? No. So I'll lean to Chattanooga.
For the first time today, we're going to disagree, Scott. I'm going to take Tennessee to cover this big number. Nico Collins, the starter for Tennessee, played in 5 games last year, able to keep his red shirt. Nicely done, balls. They won those 5 games by an average of 36.4 points per game. The only team that was relatively close in skill to this Chattanooga team was UConn. They beat them 56-3. This Tennessee wide receiver room is absolutely loaded, maybe one of the best in the country. Chattanooga's been down this road before. They don't have great luck with SEC teams. They lost 66-10 last year to Alabama.
Is that bad?
I see a similar outcome in this one. Scott and I, we're on opposite sides. I've got the Vols. He's got the Mocs.
I will point out, by the way, I do love the over in that game.
Solid.
I think Tennessee runs it up, and I think Tennessee's defense, once again, might be a bit of a flaw with this team. So I can see Chattanooga scoring some. I like the over.
Fair. Scott, let's take a look at one of those dreaded Dakota teams. We saw North Dakota State in action last night against Colorado. They had a lead at halftime.
Shout out to Prime for the clock management at the end. That was something, wasn't it?
Andy Reid's like, at least I'm not that guy.
Mm-hmm.
North Dakota State did not win the game, Scott, but they did cover. They lose by 5 and into the game at the 5-yard line. So So now we've got the team that's actually better than them that has won the FCS championship the last 2 seasons. The South Dakota State. Say it, Scott.
Jackrabbits.
The Jacks. The Jacks are in action. They're heading to Stillwater to check out the what's the Penguin place? You always used to see those shirts everywhere from the Stillwater bar. You know what I'm talking about?
I would say that I'm drawing a blank, but I have no idea what you're even talking about. So at no point was that in my mind to forget.
It is like Freezy's Ice House or something. Somebody tell in the comment section what the stupid bar in Stillwater is. Anyway, Oklahoma State ranks 17th. They're 9.5-point favorites. 54.5 is the total. I worry. This Oklahoma State team is another team that you have to kind of watch in the quote unquote preseason because they have a tendency to at times play with their food and go into a little bit of funks.
Are you getting killed by South Alabama at home by like 30?
Yeah, that's one. Well, they also struggled with Central Arkansas last year. Central Arkansas's got not a good team, and we're going to talk about them a little bit later. Spoiler alert. They did win 27-13. They beat Missouri State 23-16 to open the 2021 season. This is a South Dakota State team that is back-to-back FCS champs for a reason. This is a very simple team. They want to run the ball as often as possible, keep themselves ahead of the chain, and that could be bad news for Oklahoma State. They ranked just 88th in rush yards per carry allowed last year. Oklahoma State may get the win in this one. It's a home game after all. They're in T-Boone Pickett Stadium. But I think the Jackrabbits keep this one within 1 score. Yourself?
I'm pretty on the fence about this because the whole game comes down to Bowman. If Bowman throws 2 picks, South Dakota State's covering. If he actually doesn't turn the ball over, they're probably winning by double digits. So it really comes down to that. South Dakota State, of course, is the right now class or the 1A, 1B with North Dakota State of the FCS. But I saw them against Iowa a couple of years ago, and I actually took them plus the points. They did cover. I think they scored a safety. I don't think they ever actually scored points offensively in that game. So I think Oklahoma State probably covers with Ollie Gordon playing, even though he probably shouldn't be with the DUI. Point is, though, he will not be missing any games. I think Oklahoma State probably gets the job done. It's going to be a sweat. I think it's going to be a very close game throughout, so I don't see a one-way traffic-free win for Oklahoma State here. I think eventually they make enough plays. I question if South Dakota State will be able to actually generate enough big plays offensively to actually move the chains against an FBS defense that might be kind of underrated for this team at least. I'll go with Oklahoma State. We're going to disagree, but it's not a lock by any means. I think it's going to come down to the wire. I just think Oklahoma State makes a few big plays offensively. They get the job done. So I'll go with Oklahoma State.
Okay, very good. By the way, I wanted to before I break this one down, or before we close this one out, I wanted to mention that we are doing an NFL Survivor contest over on ESPN. Just go to the ESPN. It's a public group. It is the Winners and Whiners Survivor contest. I believe they call it the Eliminator Challenge on ESPN.
Yes, it is.
Don't be fooled by the terminology. So get over there and join. Everybody that joins gets a $5 store credit to spend as they want on any premium product in the Winners and Whiners shop. Plus, there's going to be great prizes. One of the prizes, Scott, is going to be the opportunity to be a paid handicapper on winnersandwhiners.com and sell your picks. So get stoked for that. Are you signed up? You're already in, buddy?
I'm not already in, but I'm going to do it. I got a week.
Okay, so yeah, get yourself over there and do that. And you know what else we didn't do that we used to do on this show, Scott? We used to take our top 3 and then keep track and crown the king of the cappers at the end of the season. So we'll start that next week because we didn't talk about it. We don't have it set up. It's amazing how much you forget in 2 years. I totally forgot how to run a show, for example. So anyway, let's move on. Let's take a look in the great state of Florida as the number 19 Miami Hurricanes travel up there to Gainesville to take on the Chomp Chomps. Miami favored by 2.5 on the road, and 54.5 is your number. It's me, right? No, it's you. Go.
So we both think Miami has a very good chance to win the ACC, and those chances looked a lot better when Florida State lost.
Yep.
We don't think Florida's going to be that good, mostly because of how tough the schedule is. I believe they have the hardest schedule in all of FBS. However, weird things happen in the rivalry, and it does feel like this line is extremely short, like dangerously short. Maybe I'm going to bite the bullet here. I'm going to go with Florida. I think that the Gators are, in my opinion, alive to win this, and I think that the line is pretty telling that even though Miami might be poised for a pretty good year, Florida with a low win total and all that is only 2.5-point dogs. Weird things happen in the swamp. I think I'm going to go with the Gators. It's really tough, though. Could go either way.
Yeah, we're going to disagree on this one. I'm going to take Miami to easily cover that one. I worry about this Florida defense, Scott, holding up against the Miami offense. They get shredded for big plays. They had just 3 interceptions last year. And the Florida offense, if they get down 2 scores, they're going to have a whole lot of trouble because this is a Gators team that is not built for shootouts. They are built for grinded out games. If Miami can open up a little bit of a lead, this game is over. Scott, you know all about Graham Mertz, and I can't believe you're actually betting on him. If you look up game manager in the dictionary, his smile and mug is right there. And now they're going to have to contend with this solid Miami defense. Nope, I've got the road team covering this one.
I just don't get the line. I thought Miami would be, if I had to guess, like 4.5, give or take. I don't know. It's just something about that line that just doesn't feel right to me. So,
smells a little fishy to you, huh?
In the swamp, it smells a bit fishy. So, yeah,
Fair.
I'll go with Florida.
Fair. All right, let's talk about Tejas, the newly minted SEC team of Texas Longhorns. They're going to be hosting the Colorado State Rams. Texas is ranked 4th, and they're laying 21.5 at home. 59.5 is the total. This is no, this is you. This is you. Go.
By the way, you said 21.5. I'm assuming you meant 33.5, right?
Where did I write? Why did I write that down?
Because ESPN is 33.5.
Good catch.
Well, because if it was 21.5, I'm obviously taking Texas. And we're probably redoing the farm play if it was 21.5.
No kidding. No, I don't. Yeah, sorry.
It's all good.
Everything.
Point is, though, it's 33.5. So the question is, does Texas kill this team? Probably. I mean, Texas should be really good, but last year, despite making the playoff, they didn't do that well at covering big numbers. Beat Rice by 27, ended up beating Wyoming by 21, beat Baylor by 32. Baylor was having a really bad year. That was in Waco, though. I feel like it's a spot where Texas probably should cover it, but historically speaking, they are really not that great at covering big numbers. And guess who they play in week 2? They play Michigan. In the big house. So I think I'm going to take the points. Texas, once again, should cover this number based on talent, but I'm not going to take Western Carolina plus the points and Chattanooga plus the points and lay it with Texas with the same exact argument. You're playing Michigan in Michigan next week. It's a pretty important game. I'll lean to the Rams to lose by 28.
All right, that's fair. This is a Colorado State team, Scott. They're not without talent, especially on the offensive side of the ball. They've got a quarterback there in Braden Fowler's Nicolosi. Sorry,
he's been around for about 20 years, or it feels that way at least.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're going to get to a guy that's going to be a 7th-year player here.
Shout out to Cam Rising, by the way, 7th year. Shout out to him.
God, they were class of. They entered college in 2016, Scott.
Yep,
2016.
A year after me, they entered college.
Jeez. Fowler Nicolosi threw for 36-40 last year. He's got 22 touchdowns. He is a bit wild. Threw 16 picks in there, but they've Colorado State may have the best player in the field in their wide receiver, Torrey Horton. And the thing I worry about is that was not defending the pass was not a strength of this Longhorn defense last year. They did rank 13th in points allowed. However, pass defense was pretty much atrocious, 240.8 yards per game, bottom 5 in the Big 12. I think the Rams hit enough balls down the field to keep the Horns in sight. I think that I'm like you. I think they may win this one by 21, 24, 27. I don't think they get to 33.5. It's hard to cover those big numbers when you got a team that can put up a couple of touchdowns and get it into the mid-teens. It makes covering those huge mid-30s and up numbers really, really difficult. I think that's what we've got here. Give me the visitors. I get in Texas in the king of all look-ahead spots. I'll take Colorado State because they're going to be focused on today. Let's take a look at the Battle of Ohio. Not exactly. The Akron Zips travel to Columbus to take on the Scarlet and Gray, currently ranked number 2 in the nation. Ohio State, 49.5. Is that the current number you see on that?
Yes, that is what I see.
It could be a crucial hook. That's why I asked. 58.5 is the number there. What do you have, my friend? Another upset?
Not quite. No offense to the Zips, but in my defense, it was a pretty big check. The reason why they're showing up for this game, Ohio State should kill them.
Really reference of the day. Thank you very much.
It has to. Point is, though, I just expect this to be a bloodbath. I mean, if you want to talk about matchups against MAC teams, for example, we ended up seeing Ohio State face off against Toledo. That was a pretty good Toledo team, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I believe they won the conference that year.
Yep.
Do you remember what the score was of that game against Toledo?
Would you refresh my memory, please?
They beat Toledo. Once again, Toledo won the conference in the MAC.
63-0?
They won 77-21.
Exactly.
So I think I got to take Ohio State in this game. We all know Akron every year is kind of a doormat of the MAC. They're not as bad as they used to be, but let's just say 4 wins, they have a parade. Let's put it that way. But I think you're looking at a spot where Ohio State probably wins this game by 50 and change. Comes down to how much they care. Ohio State, you could argue, with all the NIL money that they have, is the most talented team in the country. You can make a serious argument that's the case. Now, McCord was there last year, who I think we'd agree wasn't very good. Will Howard's an upgrade. I think they'll be better at that position. They always have great wide receivers. The defense should be top 3 in the country. I'm not sure Akron's going to move the ball. You might get a couple defensive touchdowns in this game. That wouldn't shock me either. I think I'm going to have to lay it. I know it's not the most attractive number. Once again, if you could find a 49 instead of 49.5, I feel better about it.
Yeah.
Ohio State really might score 63, and I don't see Akron reaching 14. So I'll go with Ohio State minus the points.
I think it's going to look a lot like that Mizzou-Murray State game last night.
The field goal to cover at the end because of a false start?
Oh, I hated that. I hated that so much. Because my play was Murray State over 7.5 at plus 180. I don't think they got the ball past midfield. I'd have to check the drive charts, but I don't remember because I had 4 games on. I wasn't watching it intently, but I don't remember seeing Murray State definitely never threatened. And I'm not sure they crossed midfield.
They weren't racing, I'll tell you that much.
It was a brutal cover. I loaded up on Murray State last night at 50.5, Scott. I didn't think Mizzou would get there. And for those of you that didn't watch that game, weren't watching the last play of a 49-0 blowout. Mizzou had the ball 4th and 4. They were going to be classy, not kick the field goal for no reason. They were going for it. Probably just run it into the line. Probably wouldn't have made it. And they had a false start on the line, move the ball back to the 9. So they just said, oh, fuck it. We'll just kick the field goal. And they kicked the field goal to cover the number. Absolutely brutal loss. But yeah, I think this is, like you said, this is an Ohio State game that can call their shot in this one. If the Zips aren't the worst team in the country, they can see it from where they're standing. This is
we talked about Temple and New Mexico. They're in that ballpark.
Yeah, FIU, they're right there. I think they are. If you look at the ESPN preseason charts, I think they're ranked 3rd last in the nation. 129, I think, is where they are. I don't think the Zips score in this one, and I think the Buckeyes can put up 50 in their sleep.
You're saying that you don't think they score. I'll put it this way. I think Ohio State's defense is going to score more than Akron's offense.
That's a fair bet. I'd like to see that bet somewhere. That'd be excellent. So yeah, I'm with you. I hate laying 50, but I don't see any other way around it. You have arguably the best team in the country against arguably the worst team in the country as far as FBS goes in this matchup. How many FCS teams are better than Akron, Scott?
I mean, if I had to think on top of my head, I don't know about percentage. I'd probably tell you I'd say 5 to like 8 FCS teams are probably better.
Okay. All right. I would go higher than I would say anybody that's in the top 20 of FCS.
I'm going to be a bit conservative with it, though, because usually with the FCS teams, you get, like, for example, the San Jose State game yesterday, where, like, Sacramento State looks good, and then eventually you just realize there's such a size differential up front that the FBS team usually just wears them down at the end.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'll go 5 to 8.
Yeah, all right. That's fair. Very conservative. Let's talk about Alabama, Scott, as they host Western Kentucky. Alabama ranked 5th in the country, laying 31.5. The total in this game is 59.5. Scott, quick trivia question for you. Who is the who got the most Heisman votes of anybody that's coming back this season?
I'm assuming it's Milroe.
Well, I should have asked it at the top of the show.
Yeah.
We're doing it before the Alabama game, kind of a giveaway. But you're right, it's Jalen Milroe. He's finished higher in Heisman voting than anybody coming back.
He was my preseason pick for long shot purposes, if that even counts as a long shot. I think he's like 15-1. I think he was my pick for the Heisman.
Well, when you get $1,500 back on your $100, I call that a long shot. So yeah, that's fair. Brought in DeBoer from Washington. He did a fantastic job of turning that Huskies team around. They went 4-8 in 2022, 11-2 last year, or excuse me, in 2021, 11-2, and then in his first year, and then they went 14-1, and of course they finished as the national runner-up last year. They brought in they have 3 linemen coming back. They brought in a freshman All-American center from Washington. You've got 2 great running backs there, and this is a Hilltoppers defense that was not good against the run, 190 yards per game, 123rd in the country. This Alabama team, good front 7, but the defensive backfield, Scott, there could be some questions. This is a Hilltopper team that is not afraid to throw the football. 2021, Scott, Bailey Zappi threw for, any idea? You want to take a guess?
I know if you're including bowl game, it was over like 5,000. So I want to say that he had like 5,300 yards.
How about 59-67?
Whoops. Okay.
59-67 and 62 touchdowns.
You can make a serious argument. I know that Burrow won the title. It might be like the greatest college football quarterback season of all time.
And do you know where he finished in Heisman voting?
Was he even invited?
No.
Yeah,
not even in the top 10, Scott.
That's what I figured. He wasn't invited.
Not even in the top 10 for Heisman voting. That's absolutely ridiculous. They brought in Austin Reed. Obviously, Bailey Zappi's gone. Probably wishes he was back there. But they brought in Austin Reed from Texas State. And
he's in the NFL now. Shout out to him. Undefeated Bears preseason.
Yeah, absolutely. Now it's TJ Finley, baby. So I think they hit enough pass plays, Scott. I think this is a young Alabama defensive backfield. If he can get some time to throw, I think they can keep it close. I'll take the Hilltoppers and the 31.5. What say you?
So I think we're going to agree, but I'm going to take a different angle because I think Alabama could, in theory, still score 50 in this game. Give me the over. Okay. I feel like I'm looking at a lot of points here. Milroe, I think, whether it involves his arm, which can definitely use some work, but that's why they got DeBoer. I think he's going to help out. Plus, we know that he's got a lot of mobility, and I think Western Kentucky, tackling-wise, might have some issues in this game. I think Bama, though, might run it up. Maybe they score a lot of points to try to give, DeBoer a good first game with Bama. So maybe there's an incentive to run it up. Western Kentucky might generate big plays in the passing game against a pretty young secondary. Couple ways to get there, but Western Kentucky plays fast, which is important because if you're going to be getting your ass kicked, at least you want a lot of plays to promote the over. Yep. So I'll go with the over in this game. I think Western Kentucky might score 14, maybe, dare I say 20 in garbage time, maybe, if they score a couple of touchdowns late. But Bama could score 50. It wouldn't shock you. So I'll go with the over instead.
Okay. Very good. I don't hate that play one bit. Let's talk about Furman and Ole Miss down there in Oxford, Scott. The Furman what?
Paladins.
Very nice. Ole Miss.
I had money on them to beat Virginia in the NCAA tournament like a year or two ago, so I remember what they are.
Excellent.
There we go.
Ole Miss is ranked 6th in the country. They are laying I hate early season football sometimes. God, I really do. 42 and a half. Fuck 42 and a half. 60 and a half is the number. What do you got?
I mean, we know Ole Miss is going to play fast, and we know that they're going to run a bunch of plays. So that's kind of the expectation. Now, they played Mercer last year. Do you remember what the score was of that game? Or how much they won by?
I looked it up. 70-13.
Close. It was 73-7.
73-7. Okay.
So they ended up killing that team. They played Central Arkansas the year prior. They won 59-3. A year before that, they played Austin P. They ended up winning 54-17. Point is, I'm going through the FCS teams they play every year, and they tend to win by 40 or 50. I think I have to lay it, just based on the numbers. They won by 66 last year against an FCS opponent. They've covered this number in basically the last 3 games against FCS teams, and we know Kiffin runs it up. They're going to go no huddle. They're going to go fast. I think that they're going to try to score a bunch of points. So I think I'm going to lay the points here. If you want to go for like Ole Miss first half and you kind of hope there's a backdoor opportunity for the dog here, maybe, but I think Ole Miss maybe even scores 60 or 70. I think I'm going to have to go with Ole Miss. I'll lean to the over, though, in the game.
Scott, here's the problem that a lot of people encounter during this period of time, the beginning of the season. They lump all the FCS schools together. They are not created equal, just like FBS schools are not created equal. This is a good Furman team. They are ranked preseason top 10 in FCS, and they play relentless defense, man. They will attack you from every angle. They love to get in the backfield and create a bunch of havoc. You have to have a mismatch like Missouri and Murray State, like you did last night, to get to those kind of astronomical numbers. Furman is not Murray State. This is a good, legitimate program. They're not quite a Dakota school, but they're damn close. I don't think they get there, Scott. I think Furman's going to be enough, going to do enough to hold off Mississippi, to hold off Ole Miss and be able to beat that 42 and a half. I love the hook. Love the hook. Give me 59-17. Just to break it off, Scott. Just to break it off in you.
Well, that is the over, so I can live with that. But
right.
I don't know. You mentioned how Furman likes to pressure the quarterback, but I feel like if Ole Miss just spreads them out wide, I don't know if they have the athletes to even hang in there. That's kind of the problem I have.
That is true. That's always the case with the FCS schools. They're a little bit lower. They're a little bit slower. They're a little bit smaller. And a lot of times, if you're going to play an FCS team, first half. Would you agree with that?
Pretty much. I feel like in this case, it really comes down to if you think Ole Miss hits the ground running or do they take their time to get going. So I don't mind the first half maybe, but I just think over the course of this game, with the pace and with the potential deep plays that Ole Miss is going to have, they're probably going to have at least one 60-yard touchdown. At least one in this game. So a couple quick strikes, maybe full game. But yeah, I think Furman can hang in there for a bit, but I'm going to lean to Ole Miss. I like the over, though.
Okay, good call. Let's talk about, Scott, I have, as dedicated watchers and listeners to our show know, I have 2 teams that I consider my homer teams. One of them is the Missouri Tigers. The other one is the K-State Wildcats. K-State ranked 18th in the country. They're going to be hosting the UT Martin.
I know this. It's God damn it. It's something. I feel like it's fish related. UT Martin.
Yeah.
I'm drawing a blank.
Skyhawks, baby.
Damn it. Okay,
the
yeah.
Skyhawks.
Damn it. Okay.
K-State.
As opposed to a groundhog. Yeah, of course.
Right. K-State 39.5 point favorites there in Manhattan, and 56.5 is the number. Scotty, K-State, Avery Johnson is the real deal. He is the real deal, man. As far as a dual threat goes, he can run the ball, he can throw the ball. It's why nobody in Manhattan is shedding a single tear about letting Will Howard go to Michigan. They have their guy.
Ohio State, but yeah.
I mean, sorry, Ohio. Yeah, same difference.
Yeah, whatever.
Man, you talk about fighting words.
Yeah, whatever.
This is a Skyhawks team that's they're used to being able to dominate the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. They are going to be in for a rude awakening there in the Little Apple. Cats have the best defensive backfield in the Big 12. I don't think once again, it's all about sustaining drives. I don't think UT Martin can do it. They may get a couple of first downs, but I think Avery Johnson and the K-State Wildcats, that offense is going to be dynamic. I like K-State to cover that big number right here.
I'm really on the fence on this one. I might actually be leaning to the dog here because UT Martin played against Georgia last year, and that was a pretty good Georgia team. Now, once again, beat Florida State by about 60 in the bowl game. You know how much they lost by against Georgia?
35.
They only lost by 41.
Okay.
That's not bad at
Okay.
Georgia. Like I think that UT Martin might hang in there. Now, Avery Johnson, we know, is going to be a very good quarterback for Kansas State. I do want to ask you, though, how's the rest of the quarterback depth chart?
We need Avery Johnson to stay healthy.
That's kind of my point. I feel like if Kansas State ends up opening a lead where they're up 35-0, or they're up like 38 to potentially, let's say, 7, and you're in the fourth quarter, they bench Johnson. Do I feel good about the backup scoring points? Not really. I don't feel that great about it. The back door might be open in this game. I'm going to take the points.
All right. You know where I do like the depth? I do like the depth of the K-State defense.
That's fair.
They've got some good depth there. I'm not sure. I'm not sure the Skyhawks are going to be able to get anything going, but that's
we save it for the end. We make you listen to the show for the farm.
Oh,
no freebies. No freebies, Tim.
Oh, yeah, and and for if you don't watch it live, if you're just picking it up, you can watch like our intro and then skip all the way.
Pretty much. You miss all the jokes, but it's fine.
You miss all the jokes and the 80s and 90s movie references, so that's fun. All right, Scott. Fresno State heading to the big house to take on number 9 Michigan, who will be starting Will Howard, as I understand it. Mm. Michigan, Scott, it's a suspicious number here. 20.5, 45.5 is the number. Fresno State, obviously not an FCS team, but they've got a new coach. Jeff Tedford had to step down over the summer due to health issues. They got Skipper. He's coming. He's going to be the coach now. What do you think about this one?
I liked it a lot more 21.5. But for the sake of this match,
it has come down too. When I initially capped this game, it was 21.5. I think
I'm going to take the points. I mentioned before that Michigan does have a pretty important game on deck, and we talked about it because I do think that with Texas coming into town next week, that's a pretty good lookout spot. Plus, Michigan lost basically everybody from last year. McCarthy ended up going in the first round. I still don't think he should have, but whatever. He got injured, hopefully makes a full recovery, but I didn't think it was very good. So you could argue that Michigan might be a bit more dynamic, actually. Point is, though, you lose Harbaugh, you lose Corum, you lose basically all your weapons, and even defensively, they'll be good because they're Michigan. Are they going to be as good? No. I mean, Harbaugh, I know they gave him a hard time at Michigan before he won a title. He's an elite coach. And your new coach coached one game against Penn State where they handed the ball off every play in the second half. So I haven't really been able to fully let's put it this way. I think Michigan will be good this season. Not great. We can call it a retooling year in the business. Mikey Keene's pretty good for Fresno State. I don't know how good Michigan's new quarterback is. We'll find out. Keene's pretty good as a quarterback. You could argue it's the best quarterback in the Mountain West. I think Fresno hangs in there. They lose, but they keep it close. Give me Michigan by 17.
Okay.
If you take Michigan, I wouldn't be surprised either, but I feel like the line coming down is pretty alarming to me.
I have a trivia question for you. Do you know who Michigan's defensive coordinator is?
I'm assuming a former Fresno State coach.
No, former NFL defensive coordinator of much renown.
I don't know. I don't know. Rob Ryan? I don't know.
Can I interest you in Wink Martindale?
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. So this is going to be probably a pretty good defensive unit for Michigan. I agree. I think to a certain extent, I think Will Howard takes a little while to get his feet underneath him. I don't love Will Howard.
I'm assuming that was a pun, by the way, for Will Howard because he's not actually at Michigan. So yeah.
What's that?
He's not actually at Michigan, so I'm assuming that was a pun.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a 20.5 was the deciding factor for me. I think it may take. I think this is going to be the opposite of most plays where I would just a first half play on the underdog. I think this one goes the other way. I think Fresno State may be able to keep it within 10 at halftime. I think Michigan State gets it together and pulls away. I do like them to cover the number here, especially late. So
I think it really comes down to how much you actually like Alex Orji behind center, and I don't know much about him. I kind of have to see a bit of a sample on him. So Yeah, Michigan could cover, but who knows? I'll put it this way: I'll wait and see how the new coach looks with a brand new offense, missing a lot of the key pieces of the won title last year.
That's fair. That's very fair. So let's move out. Let's move out west, Scott, to the ACC, or no, I'm sorry, to the Big Ten, as Oregon makes their Big Ten debut. Jesus, what a world! As they host the Idaho, Scott
Vandals.
There you go. Oregon ranked number 3 in the country. They're laying 44.5. God, I can hardly wait till conference play. 62.5 is the number. What do you have here? Oh,
yeah,
no, it's me. Sorry.
Okay.
Scott, this is a really good Oregon team, especially at home. They have a non-conference winning streak at 32 games. That is currently leads the nation for the longest non-conference home winning streak.
It's going to be 33.
It is going to be 33. Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of question about that. They brought in Dylan Gabriel from Central Florida by way of Oklahoma. Yeah. Scott, he was good in his 2 years at Oklahoma. 54 TDs, 12 picks in 2 years there.
Beat Texas.
Yeah, they beat Texas badly. And they also have Tez Johnson back. Fine receiver, broke the Oregon record, 86 receptions. 1,182 yards. That was the third most in program history, 10 TDs. Vandals, Scott, another good FCS team. They're ranked number 7 in the preseason poll. Oregon also brought in sophomore quarterback Dante Moore from UCLA. I think they want to see what they have with him. I think they know what Gabriel can do, but I think that Dante Moore is going to get a fair amount of playing time probably in the second half once this game gets kind of out of hand. I think 44.5 is just too much, Scott. Again, a good FCS team, not just a random FCS team, but a top 10 FCS team. 44.5. I cannot abide by that much disrespect for the FCS. I'll take the Vandals to steal one.
So this one, I feel like we're going to disagree. Idaho really has not challenged themselves that much out of conference recently, and they ended up losing to California about like 14. Killed Nevada, but Nevada we know was not very good last year at all. A point is, though, Oregon has a history of really destroying FCS teams. Yes, I know that not all FCS teams are created equally, but we know this team is very, very good at running up the score.
New coach, though. New coach, new quarterback, buddy.
For Oregon? They had a landing last year.
Oh, sorry. Yes, you're right. My bad.
New quarterback, yeah, but they played Portland State last year in the first game of the season. They won 81-7. They played in the year prior. They played Eastern Washington, who's usually a decent FCS team.
That's a fair team. Yep.
They won 70-14. So they have a history of scoring not just 60 but potentially 70 in these potential matchups. Now, I might like the over. Maybe Idaho can score a bit, but Gabriel, I think he's a downgrade from Bo Nix, but he's still a really good college quarterback. They'll generate big plays. They'll go no huddle. They might go for it on a couple 4th and shorts to rub it in. I think Oregon wins, in my opinion, by 52, if I had to guess, but I'm expecting some vandalism in this game. I'll go with Oregon to win comfortably.
Back at you. All right, very good. And now one of the few actual good games that we're going to be talking about, Scott, or at least potential good games, is Notre Dame travels down there to College Station to take on the Aggies. Notre Dame ranked 7th, Texas A&M ranked 20th, and Texas A&M is the home favorite here, 2.5. 46.5 is the number. We're all waiting with bated breath for your opinion on this one, so let's hear it.
Yeah, so I feel like the line makes sense just based on, the actual, I'd say, reputation that College Station has. However, we know Texas A&M's kind of been how do I put this, a shit show for the last couple of years. Now Jimbo's not there, so you can argue that is an upgrade at the coaching position. Do you like Mike Elko?
I do. We'll see. I thought he did a decent job at Duke.
It wasn't his fault that Riley Leonard got injured, so it's pretty tough to evaluate the last.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It is kind of hard to see. I think that's a decent pickup. We'll see. It's
fine. You can argue that it's a pickup that's usually like beneath Texas A&M money, but he's a decent coach. So it's an interesting matchup though because he's against his former quarterback because Riley Leonard's now the quarterback of Notre Dame. Right. I'm going to take the Fighting Irish in this one. I think the line's too short. I think A&M might be fine, but once again, new coach. We'll see how that works out. But A&M's been a mess for years. They beat Bama. That's the only thing they've really done in the last 3-4 years. So I think Notre Dame's the better team. Notre Dame, you could argue once again, is a team that's destined to underachieve based on their expectations. They're still usually a top 15 team every year. I don't know what A&M is at this point. I'm going to take a wait-and-see approach with A&M, but I think that Notre Dame's going to be good. They're always good up front, even though they lost all to the NFL. They're still a pretty good offensive line every year. I like Leonard at quarterback. Defense should be fine. A&M at home, I get it's a dangerous place to play, and they tend to give any team a run for their money. I got to see more from a new coach, and from what in my opinion is a work in progress with A&M. Feels very reputation-based. I'll go with Notre Dame in the spot.
Yeah, Notre Dame, A&M lost a lot of players to the transfer portal when Jimbo left. Now, obviously, with that kind of reputation, they brought in some good players as well. The only thing I'm worried about is Notre Dame has some injuries along the offensive line. They lost two of their key blockers, and they've got a third guy that's hurt. So I will see.
That's why the line is moved, by the way. That's why the line is moved to where it is.
Yep. And so we'll see what happens. But I'm going to be with you, Scott. I like this Notre Dame team with the points. I think that's a solid play. Don't hate the money line. You know the rule. If you're going to take 2.5, don't do it. Just play the money line. And I think that's the case here. I don't have the numbers in front of me. I'm assuming Notre Dame is somewhere in the neighborhood of plus 125 to win this game outright, give or take. I'll take the Golden Domers on the money line to win it outright.
ESPN bet is 135.
135, even better. All right, Scott. Let's talk about the Southwest as number 21 Arizona hosts New Mexico. New Mexico is a 31.5 point underdog to Arizona. So, Scott, I guess the question is, are they going to be down after giving away that game last week, or are they going to be hungry for revenge and take it out on Arizona? For those of you that didn't watch the New Mexico and State, who the hell was it?
Montana State.
Montana State. Thank you very much. Really had them in hand for much of the game until they decided that winning really isn't our thing.
You mean giving up a 93-yard touchdown on a read option with 5 minutes to go, up double digits, is not a good idea?
That's what I'm saying to you.
Okay.
That's exactly what I'm saying to you. So what did you see out of New Mexico that you liked or didn't like in that game? Anything?
Oh, the defense looked pretty decent. At least I'll put it this way. They looked opportunistic. They scored 2 touchdowns. However, I have to point out that even though New Mexico ended up blowing pretty much a free win, getting out toward 21-0 in the fourth quarter. Do you know how badly they got outgained by Montana State in that game?
I would assume by a lot, just because they had 2 scoop and scores, so they didn't have a lot of offensive plays as many as they would normally have. I'm assuming that the numbers fairly well favored Montana State in that one.
So they did. Montana State ended up having about 243 more yards of offense. Do you know how many yards Montana State had in that game?
512.
567 yards.
Sure.
So, and a lot of that was on the ground. They had 362 rushing yards. Imagine if they faced off against a quarterback that actually throw. Oh, wait, they are in this game. Yeah, I think Arizona kills them. New Mexico, I think we agree, when you are getting 2 touchdowns as a home underdog against an FCS team, everybody thinks you suck. Like, we think this team might win like 1 game. It wouldn't shock me. Point is, Arizona got a decent amount of actual, I'd say, firepower back offensively, which should really kill this defense. Arizona, they got a new coach, but I do actually like their coach. But I think you're looking at a spot where Arizona might be out for blood here. The only thing that might concern you is if you like the fact that New Mexico has a game under their belt where they might not end up having a bit of a shaky start. Maybe Arizona comes out flat. In reality, though, if you give up 560-plus yards to an FCS team, I think you're going to get killed by a good FBS offense. Yeah, at home too, yeah. And the only reason why the game was close was 2 scoop and scores. I think Arizona kills them by 40. Give me Arizona.
Yeah, I kind of felt ripped off because I think we were both on Montana State there, right? I know I was.
Yes.
And if you look at the stat line,
I wasn't as on it as you were, but we did agree on Arizona.
Yeah, should have won it. But anyway, I'm with you. I think this Lobos team has nothing at all.
And I
Arizona.
liked Brennan at San Jose State. He's a new coach. I get it. They kind of peaked last year with a different coach, but Brennan did a good job. He somehow won the conference with San Jose State.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was did not see that coming midway through the Mountain West schedule last year.
Yeah,
did not see the San Jose State and UNLV final on the horizon.
By the way, on New Mexico in that same game against Montana State had 324 yards. They were 1 for 8 on third down against an FCS team. 1 for 8. This game might get really ugly.
Yeah, I agree. Arizona big. Let's move on to Sunday, Scott. A little Sunday college football action. Why? Because we can. It's
the last week before NFL. You got to savor all the potential revenue.
Yes, it is. It's the last week before the NFL. And, of course, with the NFL comes the Winners and Whiners Survivor Contest. Don't forget to get over there to ESPN under the Eliminator Challenge and just to put in Winners and Whiners Survivor Contest, enter, get your free $5 worth of store credit, and maybe win big, huge prizes. Scott, this is going to be the other game featuring two top 25 teams as LSU and USC get together. Where's this one at? I didn't write that down. Is this a neutral?
I have to pull that up. I got to assume it's not at Mercedes.
I don't know, but I didn't.
Usually, when in doubt, guess Mercedes. Let me just see where this is at, though. Is that a safe guess? I feel like usually that's a safe guess.
Or
game
or Jerry World.
This game is taking place actually in Vegas. It's at Allegiant
Stadium.
Okay.
There you go. It's LSU 2.5 point favorites. 64.5 is the number on this one. Hit me.
I think I like the over, but I think I actually am going to go with USC, believe it or not. I don't know what to expect from LSU because Daniels was so damn good, and he basically carried the entire team. Both teams defensively, I don't trust at all.
Woo.
So I like the over. Give me points. Who is the better quarterback in this game? Because Moss might be really good from USC, and we don't know yet. But we have seen LSU's backup play a bit. You think he's that good? I think he's fine. Like, I don't.
If you make me vote today before the season starts, I have to go with USC has the quarterback advantage here.
I think Nussmeier's fine. Like, I'll put it this way: you lose a lot of mobility with him at quarterback instead of Daniels. Moss might be solid. I'll give Lincoln Riley some props. You lost Neighbors, you lost Thomas, you lost a bunch of key pieces. I'm going to go with USC. Even though the team defensively was a mess and they lost Caleb Williams, I think that LSU being favored in a clear neutral, by the way, you got to actually favors USC because it's on the West Coast. I like the points here. Give me the money line. Give me a high-scoring, back and forth, just phenomenal game. Give me USC winning 38-31.
I don't hate that a bit. These were, man, these defenses were so bad last year. They were both great over teams because they both had good offenses and they couldn't stop anything. Just absolutely dreadful. I remember having USC in a couple games. You're like, just make a stop, just one stop, and they couldn't do it. I like your over as well. I will take USC to win this one outright. I'm with you, Scott. Vegas is 5 hours from LA.
SEC bias. Maybe a little bit. No, but the games just mean more for the SEC. That's why they're favored. But I think it's a coin
flip down there, buddy. It's a different sport.
I think it's a coin flip game. I really don't see much separating. You can make the argument LSU defensively should be better on paper. At the end of the day, these teams couldn't stop anybody last year, and I feel like with that being the case, if you're expecting a good old-fashioned shootout here, I think you probably like the dog in the over. So
yep, I'm with you. And a Monday night game, Scott. We got a little Monday night action as Florida State tries to get off the mat as they host the BC Eagles. Florida State still ranked 10th in the country. Why? Really no idea.
I think for week 0, they didn't update the actual I think that's why. They didn't want to move teams down or up with other teams playing.
Is that it? Okay.
I think they merged week 0 and week 1 for the actual rankings.
Florida State 15.5 point favorite, Scott. 50.5 is the number. You got to look at this game one of two ways. And we talked a little bit about it with New Mexico in a joking manner, but I'm serious here. Is either going to be a snapback game for Florida State where they right the ship, or this team is way worse than we anticipated. You have to decide which camp you're in before you make this pick. Florida State did not look good in week 0. I'm in the rebound camp, Scott. I think they have more talent. I think BC has a lot to offer. I think they're going to surprise some people this year. I don't think they're going to surprise Florida State. Give me a small lean. I'll take Florida State to cover the 15.5. Yourself?
Yeah, so we both did not pick Florida State to win the ACC because we thought they'd be overrated. And it turns out it took us about 2 days to be proven right. For the actual matchup, though, they faced off last year in Boston College, and Boston College lost by 2. That game was actually very close. But it's in Florida State, so I think that's going to play a factor. First home game because they played in Ireland for some reason. I'm with you. I'm in the rebound camp. I think Florida State's better than that. It was mostly how much they got dominated up front. That defensive line better show up for this game. They got embarrassed, and I'm sure that the coaching staff just ate them alive in the film room all week. I think they'll bounce back. They should be better. Georgia Tech might be underrated as well. Now, I do like Castellanos at quarterback for Boston College because he could run. He's like a worse version of Kyler Murray. The issue is his touchdown-interception ratio is not good at all. He had 15 touchdowns throwing and 14 picks. Turnovers might be a serious problem, and I think Florida State should be better up front. Georgia Tech has a lot of experience up front, and they might have the most underrated offensive line in the entire conference. Boston College, not so much. Castellanos had to run for his life quite often and to improvise. I think Florida State bounces back. Give me the Seminoles with the tomahawk chop to win this game by 20-plus points. I still love it. I'm a big fan.
There you go, buddy. Hour and 2 in, and we made it. How about that? We have just one thing left to do. And before we get to it, we're going to get some complaints because we're going to be without our chapeaus for this next segment. But there is a method to our madness. Because we won last week, we are very superstitious. Both of us were bareheaded when we made the pick last week. We're going to be bareheaded until we lose one. Right, Scott?
Do you have the celebration farm sound, by the way, on the keyboard, or you don't have that? Or you lost that?
What was it?
It was just like a banjo, like Diddy.
Let me see if I still have.
I don't know if you have that or not. We'll fix it in post.
Yeah, no, I don't think
fine.
I do. I've got. I do still have this one, Scott.
It's a gambling hero, of course. Yeah, of course. It's a good time. What a good one.
All right, let's fire.
I missed the show. We had the best sound effects in the business.
Absolutely. All right, let's fire it up, Scott. Everybody says if you had to bet one game this week, if you had to put everything you had on one single outcome, if you had to, let's say, bet the farm, as it were, what game would it be? Well, ladies and gentlemen, your prayers have been answered. We're about to tell you. Scott, you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cue it up, baby. That is so good. I love that graphic so much, so very much.
Yep.
Scott, we're going to take a game that we have not talked about, and we're going to take a game that almost nobody is talking
Believe it or not, it's a game we haven't talked about. There's only like 90 games on. We didn't talk about this one.
We did not talk about this game. It is, if you look at FanDuel, you will see it has a 10 a.m. Eastern start time. That is inaccurate, as we discovered last night as Scott and I were putting this together. It is actually a 7 p.m., I believe, Eastern start time.
Yep.
Scott, what do we got?
So we're going to go to a matchup with an FCS team involved. It's going to be Central Arkansas. You spoiled it early as a teaser for the last part of the episode. We're going to go with Arkansas State. Minus the 9.5 at home against Central Arkansas. One of us, and it wasn't me, picked Arkansas State to be a dark horse candidate to win the conference. Right. But after getting embarrassed in the first 2 games last year, not bad. And we think this team is potentially dangerous offensively. Very mobile quarterback who came back. And I don't know if you want to do the honors because they are your darling to win the conference. But 9.5 feels short for a team that actually might be a bit dangerous offensively.
Yeah, and this is and the other part of this equation is this is a bad Central Arkansas team. They are not afraid to schedule anybody, as we've talked about some of their results. As they've
it's
just
a very big check.
I think, in fairness, it was a very big check for them. So yeah, that's the deal. This is I think the casual fan, you see Central Arkansas, you see Arkansas State, you're like, I don't even know the difference.
In-state rivalry, I can't lay those points.
There's a huge difference in the talent level here. Arkansas State's going to make some noise. They learned their lesson, Scott, about how to schedule. after getting beat 73-0 in their opener last year. They're not going to make the same mistake again. Scott Reichel and myself, we are betting the farm on the Arkansas State. Scott, you know who they are?
Yeah, we're going with the Red Wolves.
The Red Wolves. That's right. We're going with the Arkansas State Red Wolves laying the 9.5. Bet the farm on that one because it's paying off. All right.
You also forgot one thing though. We didn't recap how we did last farm.
Oh, you're absolutely right. So you want to do the honors? Go ahead.
We had a nice win. Unfortunately, I don't have the sound effect to go with it, but there's a banjo somewhere that's getting ready to play. They're strumming the banjo as we speak. Point is though, we ended up having a nice winner. Never in doubt. We had Georgia Tech plus the points, and they won the game outright. So hopefully ended up getting a little bit down on the money line, but looked ugly early. Florida State scored in about 2 minutes in the first drive, but the point is after that they did nothing. DJ wasn't very good, and the defense got manhandled up front. But nice winner for us. Nice start to the season.
Yep. Not only did they cover the number, they won the game outright. So, and when it was like you said after that first drive, it was never really in doubt. We're gonna run the table this year, Scott. 13-0. Here we go.
Let's do it.
Okay. All right. So there you go, guys. That's a show. What did we bring it in? Hour and 6 minutes.
It's not bad
for us. That's not bad at all. We are in mid-season form. I'm just trying to see if any comments over here. Only if you're betting the Super Bowl 59.
Brandon wants that wants the handicapper spot.
Oh, excellent. We would love to have you. So just all you have to do is go out there and win the Survivor contest. Scott, do you do any good? Good to be back. Absolutely. Scott and I would talk frequently about being able to do the show again, being able to do some sort of a show together. We always have a lot of fun, and we always have a lot of fun with everybody tuning in.
You were going to ask me something.
I was going to ask you something. It was
it about Survivor or was
do you do any good? Traditionally, are you any good at Survivor? Are you better at like the Survivor contest, or are you better at like the Circa Millions?
I got to week 12 last year in Survivor.
Ended
up losing because of the Monday night game with the Vikings because Dobbs forgot how to play quarterback, and I ended up losing. But that was a game where they needed one first down. They couldn't get it, and then they played prevent, and Fields went down the field. So that was unfortunate. But I got to week 12 last year, which is pretty good.
Okay. All right. That's not bad at all. Did Dobbs ever know how to play quarterback? Was that a thing?
He did on the Cardinals. That's why they traded him. He was too good for the tank. So
fair. All right. So, yeah, definitely get over there. Enter our Survivor contest. Scott and I are going to be doing this every week at 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central, as we unveil our college shows, our college picks on the Scott Squared Back to School show. So, guys, I appreciate everybody tuning in, everybody watching us. And Scott, you got that final thing queued up, ready to go?
Yes, I do.
All right, there you go. You guys take care. Have a great weekend. Let's go out there and make some money. And we'll be back next week to talk all about it. We'll see you then.